Alright guys, Hutchcomic again. I hope you're doing good and enjoying your day so far. Mercules back in the server last night, continuing to defy all the expectations, playing the Advanced Warfare Legacy match against many of the OpTic legends and absolutely demolishing them in a complete masterclass. But Rostermania continues as well. Big updates last night as to what Toronto are up to, and also what's going on with the Falcons. Rumour has it Ghosty, Thieves want to sell him either to Gentlemate or to the Falcons, but if Falcons want him, they are going to have to pay a premium. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Let's get into it then. So the OpTic Legacy Week is this week because it's OpTic Day on the Thursday in a couple of days' time, and they've done a killer job this year. So last night it was the Advanced Warfare match, and wow, this was a really fun watch, to be honest. If you guys were watching back in the Advanced Warfare days or played that game, it was one of the legendary years, one of the better years really in the history of competitive Call of Duty. There were, I think, something like 17 tournaments that season. Nowadays we have 6 if we're lucky. Back then, and okay, not all of them were the biggest tournaments ever, and the World Championship was in March, which was kind of strange, but that's how it used to be, because they used to align it with the second DLC so they could push it. You know, these were the early days of competitive COD, but back then there were tons of different event organisers, and there were events all the time, all over the shop, and the maps are legendary, there's no doubt about it. This game was controversial at the time, continues to be that way today, I would say, but like some of these maps, Biolab Hardpoint, one of my all-time favourite map mode combinations, Comeback Uplink is legendary as well, Retreat is one of, like, I think the best maps ever in COD, so it was a really good time to watch this. So anyway, the matchup that was played was between Team Scump and Team Formal. Now, Scump usually in these is absolutely unbeatable in these throwback games. Now, I will say, first of all, watching these last night, it's interesting how the game is different now, maybe to what it was when the pros were playing it day in, day out, and I think that's only natural, really. Like, if you watch them play, you'll be like, damn, they're shooting kind of windies, right, compared to what you might expect from players of this caliber. And it's not because they're washed up or something, it's mainly because the game just plays a lot different nowadays to how it did back then. I'm not just talking about dynamic aim assist and the strength of the aim assist, although that is a factor, but it's also like the way the aim response curves work compared to the current CODs. It's just very different. So like, if you got these guys to grind Advanced Warfare and play against bots for a week, then they'd be shooting real straight like they used to be. But that adaptation process is not easy, and you actually saw it, I think, as the series went on, that the players were getting more and more comfortable with it. But Game 1, Biolab Hardpoint banger. One feature of Advanced Warfare in this title was there was not yet the feature that Black Ops 3 introduced, whereby the clock, instead of being 10 minutes total timer, was actually 5 minutes, but when you were in the hardpoint and one team controlled it, the timer was not ticking down, because nowadays the vast majority of hardpoints get to 250 because of that rule. Back in the day, there were a number of hardpoints, of course, that didn't. So this one ended 228 to 185, and that was standard practice. Back in the day, you just got 10 minutes of raw gameplay. Scump goes 36 in 28 game 1 for the win. Methods had a pretty difficult time game 1. He started off pretty bad. He ended like 19 in 32 or something the game 1. So Methods was getting roasted. Then it was a Detroit Search and Destroy, which is a legendary map mode combination. So many good times I remember playing on this map. This is a pretty funny clip with Kremp trying to call out where he thought Huke was on the map and just getting it wrong again and again. Bose actually ended up winning this 1v1 in pretty much his only highlight of the night. This, though, was kind of the telling map of the series. It was 2-1 at this point. We went to a retreat hardpoint, and this is a map where Formal famously drops, I think, 62 or 61. He dropped 60 anywhere on this map. This was the engagements map, and as I say, one of the best map mode combinations ever. Mercules here dropped 53 on Shotzzy, Scump and his team. Huke dropped 45. I think what's pretty crazy about this is that Huke was known as an unbelievable player in this game. Like, when he was first coming up, this was the game that Huke really made a name for himself. And Mercules just spawns into the server, having not played this game competitively back in the day. Although I will say, there was some debate on where, Mercules sits, but it was Shotzzy, Scump, Kremp and Bose. That was one of the teams, and yeah, I think Kremp hadn't really picked up a controller in a long time, was just hopping back in here, and he still had some decent moments, but yeah, obviously Bose was kind of getting tucked to bed by Mercules, but still, I think of Mercules' 53 kills, something like 17 of them were on Scump. You guys might remember that clip from a little while ago when they were on the OpTic podcast, and Scump asks him, like, do you think you could gun me in Advanced Warfare? And Merc was like, yeah, within a fraction of a second. And well, he got the chance to prove it, and he puts them in the 100-point club here with 53 kills, 26 deaths for a 2 KD. just crazy, right, what this kid's capable of, because he doesn't play Claw, he doesn't use paddles, and he just turns up on the server in Advanced Warfare. And I know that there's plenty of caveats playing against guys that are now retired and all of this, but still, like, it's got to be said, it's so impressive that Mercules just turns up on a game that he never played competitively. Okay, he probably played it, and based on, I think it was maybe this next thing I've got here, yeah, this, if you guys did play Advanced Warfare, you'll know that if you spammed around with one of the joysticks when you were defusing, you could get it to do this like fast diffuse thing. It didn't actually make it diffuse any quicker, it just looked like it was. But you only know that if you actually played the game. So Mercules, like, you know, he played the game. He definitely played the game, and he obviously knew rotations and stuff. But nonetheless, this kid just spawning into the server and doing that against legends of the game, I thought was pretty crazy. And then we even got this moment. Scump could only laugh at this. We turned up to a Terrace Search and Destroy, which is another legendary map in COD history. Shotzzy here gets taken down by Forwell, and then Mercules runs up against Scump and then just quick scopes him straight out of the server, and then finishes 11-0, and they close out the game. So Mercules literally just could not die if they tried to kill him. And at the end of the series, Merc finished with a 1.45 KD. Huke had a 1.25, Formal had a 1.06, Methods at a 0.86. That was the team that won. Scump then finished just positive. Kremp with a 0.9, Shotzzy with a 0.86, and Bose with a 0.6. He had a pretty rough series overall. But Mercules with an absolute masterclass. And I did mention as the series is getting underway, I was like, you know, maybe McGregor, like Lyman, you have to make a card or two. And, well, he decided he was going to put together one here for Merc because he had a pretty sensational performance, and Brian Stats was tracking the numbers as well. Didn't end up a 99 overall because of the Search and Destroy, but it was still an unbelievable performance. So there's more to come on this over the coming days as well. Different teams, different matchups. But let's talk about some Rostermania stuff, because we know that the Spanish War, the Spanish Civil War drama has kind of concluded now. Obviously, Miami still aren't very happy about things. Beans was talking about that verbal agreement. And there was a bit of juice yesterday, because Rencor tweets this out, "My time will come," and in the replies, Real tweets out this SpongeBob behind a, you know, in prison thing. So implying that either he believes, Real, or Rencor has told him that Rencor feels like he's stuck in jail, because Real escaped, right? Real got out of there, and he was an unrestricted free agent. He signed with Toronto, we think. Rencor is... where he was linked to FaZe. FaZe apparently were interested in Rencor. They were willing potentially to pay some sort of a buyout. This was a rumor, but Miami understandably said no, because if you're Miami and you let Rencor go, your team is cooked, your project is cooked, you might as well just chalk it up. So I understand why they wouldn't do that, but also from a player perspective, it's obviously frustrating maybe if Simp wants you to play with him, and then it's not going to happen because the org is wanting to keep you along. It is what it is, it's business, but it's obviously frustrating, and Real is tweeting implying that. Now, Rencor is a great guy, so he's not tweeted implying anything similar. And I will say, Rencor came out with this statement saying, because people were criticizing Real, and maybe understandably on some level, even Rencor says it, he may have made mistakes in how he handled things or the way that he did them, i.e. telling those, you know, telling Miami like, hey, if these are the terms, I'm down. He actually was in our chat last night with DopeCheck, and what he said was kind of interesting, that Miami had told him, hey, these are the terms that, you know, we're willing to offer. And Real was like, okay, yeah, I agree with those terms. If that's what you offer, feel free to draft up the contract, right? But the contract was not yet there. What they'd actually put into the terms wasn't yet agreed. It's not like they'd given him a contract and he said, yeah, this is fine, but he hadn't signed it yet. They just said, hey, this is what we're willing to offer, but they'd not yet put that into writing, right? Like, my understanding is, like, basically what Real said is that it was a verbal agreement both ways. They told him verbally, hey, we'll offer this, and he told them verbally, okay, that's fine, but they hadn't necessarily actually put that in writing or in a contract yet. So as far as Real's concerned, he did nothing wrong here, right? Okay, maybe the team feels differently, but at least that's Real's perspective as far as I understand, that he said verbally, yeah, but they'd also told him verbally as well. So it's not like there was a contract that he'd said, okay, this is great, I'll get it signed in a jiffy. You know, like, it's not how it turned out. So Rencor, to me, has done the job here that the Heretics organization should have done, because if a player leaves the organization who's given a lot to your organization on Heretics, and you've had your best ever year as a franchise with him on the team, it would have been nice to at least say, thank you on the way out the door, but they actually did the precise opposite. Whereas Rencor says, look, he put his heart and soul into it. Hopefully your next team goes well. I can assure you that without him, the team wouldn't have been the same. It's obviously a tough loss, but we're going to try and keep making history. And, you know, he basically just gives a load of credit and some really nice words here to Rail as a teammate and as a player, and says, I hope everything goes well for you, except when you play against us. So I thought it was a really great thing for Rencor to come out and say, and just, you can't hate this guy, right? Like, Rencor seems like an absolute top professional person, and even friend to some of these guys too. He then replies to this and says, look, Miami, I'm here to stay. That would certainly be the implication. How well they'll do next year might depend on whether they can try and get an upgrade somewhere, whether Snoopy, whether they can get him. Right now, that seems less likely. There was some leaks emerging yesterday that it could be Snoopy, Purge, Cammy, and maybe Craze over on the Boston team. We'll see if that goes anywhere, because there are other rumors that Surge have other ideas about letting Craze do something like that. Now, Toronto, we talked about this because JoeDeceives, Real, CleanX, Insight, that's a rumored team of 4. What do you guys think about this team? Because, not gonna lie, I really kind of like this. I think that Insight and Beans didn't work as an AR combo, but when Insight played with Mercules, he was better. When Insight played with CleanX, at the World Championship with aBe, he was better. So, or the World Cup with aBe, right, he was better. So, I think that this, I know people are going to say, oh, well, Insight, you know, he's got dirt on the org or whatever. But I actually think that Insight, of the options available, probably the best that Toronto could have done in the circumstances. Maybe, you know, maybe you could have got Abuzah or something, but I think that the Insights pickup, again, is fine. CleanX, though, is going to be flexing on this team. Is this team going to win an event? I don't know. We'll see about that. But I do think that this team has a very high floor. I don't expect this team to be finishing lower than top 6. You know, maybe once a season, but I don't expect that to happen multiple times. I think their floor should be very high, and maybe their ceiling could be pretty damn high as well. We know what, you know, they were very close this year to having some serious success in BO6. Never happens. They fell short multiple times for multiple reasons. Is this team like a massive improvement? Not necessarily, but it's something to think about. And CleanX does tweet last night, and he was 25 yesterday, so happy birthday to CleanX belatedly. But he says, yes, I'm flexing next year. And Real was the first man in the replies. So, yeah, take that as you will, pretty much. That seems to be how it is, that CleanX is going to be flexing. We'll talk about that team more in the coming days. The other big rumour was that the FaZe contracts are maybe locked in now. We saw Abuzah sign a deal on Twitter. We saw O4 apparently do it as well. We don't know if Drazah's done it yet, but Jumpshot France are reporting that this team has now locked in, and Drazah will be back on FaZe with those 2 guys from Surge, and of course with Simp as the superstar of the lineup. Now, the other big drama is where Dan Ghosty goes, because Thieves, we think, are signing aBeZy from FaZe, and they're putting together a team of Kenny, Scrap, HyDra, and aBeZy, which is pretty mega in my opinion. There were rumors that in order to afford to get anyone else, especially to buy someone like aBeZy, they're going to have to sell Ghosty for some amount of money. Now, rumor has it there are 2 teams interested in Ghosty, one of which is Gentlemates, which I would say right now are the favourites to get Dan Ghosty, especially with this news leaking. Apparently Falcons, I'm not sure on exactly the numbers here, the numbers in terms of Ghosty's buyout are nowhere near the numbers we were talking about for Scrap. You know, you're talking maybe, you know, very low 6 figures or something in that kind of ballpark anyway, that maybe Thieves would want for him. I'm sure there's some negotiations to be done. Point is, if you're Thieves, you know that Falcons have bread. So apparently the strategy is for Thieves is that basically the number they're quoting Falcons is much higher than the number they're quoting Gentlemates, to my understanding. That's what Ronnie is saying here in the article, is that Nature, it's not necessarily Nature, right? The team at Thieves, Falcons are interested, and they're quoting Falcons a number, right? And that's what they want Falcons to pay for Ghosty. They are quoting Gentlemate a far smaller number, in my opinion, in my understanding, to get this deal over the line. So pretty interesting, right? And maybe this will become the default strategy for certain teams to be quoting Falcons more money than they would quote other teams, because they know that they've got the money to pay. And maybe that's only fair business, but also with this leaking, if you're Falcons, like, Falcons aren't trying to waste money, right? Like, yeah, they've got bread, obviously, and they will probably throw that weight around more so over time. But they're not going to waste it for no reason. And if they are hearing rumours that Gentlemates are getting offered a far smaller number than they are, then they're not going to agree to those terms, right? You would imagine. So, you know, maybe this is going to backfire on Thieves, because now Falcons agree, like, oh, screw you guys, we ain't doing business with you anymore. Maybe it's not going to work like that, who knows? My estimate is that Gentlemates will probably get this deal over the line and Ghosty will be playing there, but we'll see. So is that going to become standard that teams start to charge a Falcons tax when they're fielding offers for their players if the Falcons are interested? It's something to think about. The other rumour of the day was on what Surge are up to. We know that their team is totally blowing it up top to bottom. We think that 04 and Abuzah are going to FaZe. We think that Neptune and Nastie are potentially joining Ghosty and Envoy over on Gentlemates. That's the current rumour. Ronnie's article though suggests that next year they might well look to sign the full OMIT team. There was a rumour about this a little while ago that OMIT were getting linked to either Rocker or Surge. It seems that Surge might be the ones to get the deal done, and they might just straight up sign Craze, Mamba, Mac and Vivid as a big rumour of last night as well. Just one or two more things. If Envoy doesn't go to Gentlemate, which I expect him to, I don't see him really getting better opportunities elsewhere. Kismet could be a good option, and just another name to kind of keep in mind really with Kismet here, because he's not been linked really anywhere as of yet. I think that it'll work out for him in due course, but it doesn't look like right now he's going to get on one of these top 6 teams that are currently forming their rosters. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
I'm in their bottom room right now. Cool. One guy's on me. Wow, I just got melted. Seth's on time. Seth's on time. He's going for his time. Yo, one spawn behind you guys. Watch out. Behind you, Zenny.
Probably. Oh yeah, Bo's on you guys.
Behind you again.
More time weak.
No. Outer. Oh, see him. Outer, dead. Another one bottom.
All pointing pretty good though.
Dead. Another one front.
In front of me. To the right.
Straight on him.
Dead. Let's go. Another one on the right.
Another one there.
Close to Phil.
He's on me. And dead.
Top quarter.
I'm out for that.
He's on top. Yeah, make sure we hold middle. One time weak.
Front it. How did they get shooting back? Oh, he pinching.
Dude, yeah. Kremp one shot top circle.
I got double naded.
Go now.
One shot mid, Kremp. I don't see him
I
there.
know.
One's middle. Two middle. There's Kremp.
More
Try to
shot.
get
I'll go all the way around.
One shot circle.
I'll kill him.
I'm going
Right on me.
One's on me,
I
man.
saw both of them.
Far left, going over the wall.
In the back. Circle, one shot.
I can't see him.
Over the wall.
Keep back, Bo. Keep back, Bo. He might be in back
You guys?
Yeah, they're all on the wall. They're all on the wall. Back there.
They're
About
close.
boost on you.
Yeah, both sides.
All there. And on the wall. You're fucking hell.
Pull, hitting side door.
They're spawning in the back though. There. Yeah, they are. Stairs on me. One guy's front on me. Stairs on me, yeah. Weak on time.